Holy fuck.
Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we will be looking at something a little bit different, and I'm sure you guys will get a really big kick out of it. Recently I received my copy of Dark Souls 3 Design Works, which is the big art book that they send out after all the DLCs are completed, and just kind of want to show you some of my highlights, some of the best parts that I thought were in the book, and just give you a chance to have a sneak peek at this before putting any money down. First off, we've got a winged knight that are found throughout Lothric. Those were the knights that joined Gertrude when the angelic faith began its sort of civil war into Lothric culture. Next, these are a number of statues that are found throughout Lothric and outside of the Grand Archives, including the Primordial Serpent, who has so far been unidentified, as if it's one we've met before or not. Here's a pretty beautiful piece of Prince Lothric's chambers, I suppose you could say. This is quite a detailed drawing of the statue of Velka found in the Undead Settlement, and probably the most detailed model that we've seen so far. And then it's followed by the goblet found at the end of the catacombs of Karthus to enter Wolnir's boss room. And then followed are some scenes from Irithyll, including some statues of the boys found within Yorshka's church, and this other unidentified statue found in Irithyll looks like a woman should have something in her hands, but doesn't. Could it be Gwyn's wife? Could it be the Queen of Lothric, or former Queen of Irithyll? Or I don't even know if you could have a Queen of Irithyll, but there you go. Also Dark Sun Gwyndolin, as we can see here, with the Golden Ritual Spear, followed by Yorm's throne, including the banner. Here I just wanted to showcase how big this book is. It's 336 pages, so I've just reached the end of the Kiln of the First Flame, and as you can see I'm only about a third through it. Here we can see Gundyr in all of his glory, and to see how his armor kind of comes apart is very cool. The ever popular Abyss Watcher. Here's one of Wolnir, and something I wanted to point out is that occasionally the artwork is printed across the middle of this hardcover book, so it is sometimes difficult to get a flat representation of the drawing, so I just have to work with what I've got. And then followed by one of the Old Demon King, and then the Yorm's banner once again, which could be the banner for the profaned capital. Here we have the Pontiff's crown and bracelets, and the page that they have on Pontiff Sullivan is got some really impressive art on it. It's a brilliant kind of drawing. I'd love to get framed one day, or as a wallpaper or something like that. Then we've got some of Aldrich. There's quite a good spread on the page for the dancer as well. She gets quite a lot of art dedicated to her, showing off the armor, the shapes, even the mask that she's wearing as well. There's also a small section devoted to the old Dragon Slayer armor and its weapon. Also some artwork dedicated to the hollow butterflies that we see throughout Lothric. It almost looks like it's bent backwards, which is something that I didn't even realize before. Might be a stark contrast to the angels that are found within the Ringed City DLC. And there's pages for Lorien and Lothric as well, and these are some of my favorite. Really gives Lorien some characterization that we didn't see before, as you'll see in the upcoming photos that I've taken. This piece especially might be one of my favorites in the whole book. It just shows both Lorien and Lothric in all their grandeur, and just really, really beautiful work that's been put into this, showing the physicality of both brothers in this. Here we can see Lothric himself bent over in pain or praying or something. There's also quite a few pieces devoted to the ancient wyvern and other creatures at Archdragon Peak that we'll see in a moment. Here we can see the Storm Drake that the Nameless King rides, and the Nameless King has some great art for him as well. Again, this is a fantastic piece. It's unfortunately printed across the middle part of the book, which is quite hard to get a flat image of. Here's the Nameless King himself as well, another beautiful piece by FromSoft, and then the Storm Drake, of course. There's also quite a bit of this section dedicated to the Soul of Cinder, just really kind of showing off the character as well as what seems to be some alternative designs that we'll see in a moment. Here we can see the unembered version, and then here it looks like the helmet is slightly different. Doesn't look like what we see in-game, which is interesting. Another winged knight, but here the angelic version that is seemingly ascended, followed by the Gru. Interesting that the horns coming out of its head somewhat resemble the ringed city weapons at their hilts, and then a dark wraith, of course. This enemy doesn't appear in the game from what I've seen, so this might be a cut content NPC, followed by a cathedral knight. There's some small artworks depicting the Karthus Warriors as well, which are very interesting looking, and the Sandworm has 2 drawings of it as well. This section seems to detail the inhabitants and enemies of Irithiel, which has some great artwork for them actually. Really is kind of captured in the game as well. Some of these concepts didn't seem to lose much steam before getting into the game itself. And here we see an Irithiel jailer. And here we're back to Archdragon Peak, and we see this enemy, and it actually shows how it would fit inside this suit, for lack of a better term. And here we're going to come and see some of the NPCs. So of course we have the Firekeeper and her so-called crown. Here we see Leonard and how his mask fits in with his hat. And some illustrations of Yuria and her duckbill looking mask, and followed by Yuria herself, of course. Seems like the mask changed slightly from design to final game. And Egon has quite a few designs for him himself. Great design there. Now this is a great swamp pyromancer. It might be supposed to represent Cuculus, but it's hard to say. It doesn't really look like her master. Here we have Cirrus of the Sunless Realms, some beautiful illustration done for this character, as well as Hodrick, who one of these pieces was in the preliminary art book that came with the collector's edition. But yeah, and here we have Rosaria, which is probably one of the best looks that we've had at Rosaria from an illustration point of view, so take from this what you may regarding lore. And we also have some exiles from Farron Keep. Now, it looks like we never actually got this axe that he's holding there, and it looks like this is the Wolf of Farron, that, or maybe just a cut enemy. And then here we have Karla, as well as a court sorcerer of the profaned capital. Looks like Karla's design changed slightly before release as well, at least in terms of the hair and the face. We get a great look at Yorshka actually in this art book. Here she is standing up using her chime, as well as we can see her strange looking tail there. And as we'll see here, there's a view from behind as well. And here we have a Londor Pale Shade, which is another great look at a not often seen character, as well as Gotthard, Black Hand of Lothric. We also have some miscellaneous class illustrations which have been seen before, but some of these are worth looking at again, as well as this female cleric, which I don't think I'd seen before seeing this art book, as well as the dragon forms that are seen within Dark Souls 3. And here we have the start of Ashes of Ariandel in terms of the landscape artwork, and we get a really good look at this mural which appears in the boss room for Elfrida, which had only really been seen I think in leaked textures before. Now this is really interesting. We get a really close look at the doll, which is found in the boss room, which people have been freaking out and theorizing over a while about what it is or who's it's supposed to represent. So I don't know, here's the best look at it that we've got. If you wanted me to get like a better, clearer photo of this at any point, let me know and I'll probably be able to do that for you. And as well, here's the painter girl. And of course a statue we find in the Ring City with Gwyn presenting a crown to a pygmy and the dark sign or the ring being carried by a pygmy. Here's a piece in which we see many buildings in the Ring City with swords of avowal over them. Again, we never really get to visit many of these, it would seem, especially this one, which was featured in heaps of promotional material but is not actually accessible in the DLC. The book's got a crazy ton of Filianore art as well, which we will see shortly. That one was already released before the game came out, and of course Primordial Serpents, and of course a illustration of the last arena of the DLC. Here we have Elfrida and Father Ariandel in all of his glory. This is the only one of the Demon Prince. Unfortunately, again, it's kind of hard to see because of the way the book's printed. And here we have Dark Eater Medea, but he gets a whole lot of good art actually. He's very well illustrated in this book, I must say. Here we get Gael. Again, it's across the middle of the book, so a little hard to make out. But he does have some art later on in the book, which I would wager is more interesting, and we'll get to that soon. Again, we can kind of see a bit of a dark sign within him, which is kind of interesting. Here's a illustration of the followers of Farron. And here we have a Corvian Knight. A very well-bearded Millwood Knight as well from Ashes of Ariandel. And the angels seen in the Ring City. Here we can see one of the pygmies. I didn't see this enemy in the Ring City either, so I have to assume that it was cut, though I'd be interested to know what it was, so I've included the name of this enemy as well, just in case anybody can read Japanese. I'd love to know what it's called. And here we have one of the notorious Ringed Knights, with its abyss-forged armor, as well as a locust. And here we have a Herald Knight as well, featured in the Ring City DLC. And back to Gael, wearing his Slave Knight set and wielding a mirror shield, it looks like, or sunset shield. And here is his face, as it's shown in the art book. And it's great to actually get a look at what he looks like under that slave hood. This is his Slave Knight armor without the red shawl as well, which is interesting, and I'd be interested for you to identify it if it's in any of the other games, as none came to mind. Apart from possibly one of the shoulder pauldrons, which looks like the Soul of Cinder also has. Here we have Wilhelm of Londor, and again, something else I hadn't realized, again, that the Fallen Knight set is actually his set, just, cracked and not in the best of shape, which is something I didn't realize. And here we have the painter girl, the Lolly herself, and her painting. Again, not finished because, I guess, fuck the fans, right? Just kidding. And here we have Shira, Spear of the Church, and her headband. Here we have Half-Light, which the Ashen Hollow has actually made a lore video on. You should go check that out. As well as Lap, as we can see here in his heavy set. And here is where Filianore gets quite a lot of her art, which is great. She really gets her really fleshed out here. We can see a close-up of the egg. Looks to be crystalline inside, which I'm sure will get the lore nerds going along there. And here we see Filianore again standing up, wearing her gown, her hair seemingly growing while she's been sleeping. Here we have one of the Pygmy Lords, and FromSoft has also shared the designs of trinkets that seem to be worn by them, which is interesting. They all seem to have circles and might be related to the cycles of time, I guess you could say, in terms of a lore perspective. And then we're on to the armaments. So we've got Vort's hammer, Zoroaster's spear, Wolnir's sword, Scholar's candlestick. I won't be showing all the weapons because a lot of them are just in the base game, but just handpicked some of the ones I thought looked really good. We've got the Prince's swords here, all three of them. the frayed blade from the soul of Dark Eater Medea. This part was actually really cool. This is of Gael's crossbow, but it seems like a lot of detail has gone into like how it would actually work if it had been engineered to work the way it does. And then we've got Gale Sword, which of course is just a plain executioner's greatsword. The runes that are printed on it, so if anyone can decipher these runes, I'd love to know what they say. And of course his greatsword by the time we fight him, at whatever time period that may be. Here we've got a great look at the Moaning Shield, wielded by Egon, supposedly depicting his sister, and also his great huge hammer, which is supposed to represent his cathedral in Karim, and also the Crucifix of the Mad King, wielded by Shira, and the Valorheart Shield, found in Ashes of Ariandel, and a close-up of one of the hilts of the Ringed City soldiers, and of course Lido's hammer, which absolutely destroys anything in Dark Souls 3. So that's all from me this time. I've got some more lore videos coming up, so don't worry about that. I'm not going to be turning into an unboxing channel, unfortunately. If you do want to purchase the book, it's available on Japanese Amazon. I got mine within like 2 or 3 days, so they really get them out quite quickly. I definitely say that it's worth getting. The artwork's really beautiful, and I didn't even really get to show half the stuff just because there's so much of it, really. As always, I'd also like to thank my patrons who have been an enormous help to me, really inspiring me to work harder on these videos and the channel at large, and I'll see you next time.